far exceeds that of China. Our internal budgets, the biggest head now, administrative head, is law and order and justice. Now, government accounts for 14.5% of our GDP. That's salaries, government salaries. It's bigger than manufacturing. So I always joke saying that our main industry is hot air and the second is manufacturing. So, in that, the biggest head after defense in salaries is the instruments of government, which is justice, police, law and order. So you have to wonder, these are figures you should disaggregate a budget. It takes time to disaggregate and find out where is the money going. Because government doesn't tell you. These are all official secrets. Like you are never told, for instance, there is a question which now in the South we keep asking, saying that why is the army, why does it have 64 battalions from Punjab and only 19 battalions from the entire 5 South Indian states, which account for 30% of the population? So 4% of the country's population accounts for 64 battalions and a majority of the paramilitary forces. And if you look at, I'll come to those numbers somewhere further down, the GDP growth, per capita GDPs are high in Himachal and Punjab. Why are they high? They're high because of pension flows and central government salaries. So this whole myth of martial races, traditional warriors, all has been created to support a system which come to be established now. Now, I'll go through some of those figures bit by bit. Moving?
Yeah, here it is moving.
Can I go back? Anyway, I jumped a slide. There was a slide in between. How do I go back? Can I go back one time? ठीक है हाँ no behind it's a graph no you're going forward आगे जा रहे हैं आप हाँ after spending a year in bed I discovered that your body forgets how the muscles move when you want to get up. There's a sequence of events which happen, you move your arm and you move your waist and you turn. My orthopedist was telling me that you forget how to do it. So you got to train your body again to get into the sequence of getting up and sitting down. I have not operated a desktop or a presentation for 6 years now. And yesterday when I was using the computer to make the presentation, I was really struggling with it. What would have taken me maybe an hour or two to prepare took me a whole day because I was making mistakes, things were going back, forwards, slides were jumping. So I'm grateful to you all to invite me because you're training my mind again, which had got used to listening to music and reading is very, very intoxicating. Anyway, this is the growth figures of India. You can see that it's a spectacular growth. What happened in India. You see, we tend to look down on what happened in this country. The transformation of this country will be total in many ways. But unequal is another story. But it happened. This is how we compare in the neighborhood. I've disaggregated the states to show how we do vis-a-vis the people on the west and Bangladesh on one side. But if you look at this map, there's a line which you can draw from somewhere from Multan to Malda. We call it the Great Indian Plains. This is irrigated by the Indus and the Ganges, mostly by the Ganges. This has 11% of the world's population in this belt. And this is the poorest area in the world. This is poorer than Africa, most parts of Africa. Most crowded. And they're all here in the cradle of Indian civilization, the Gangetic Plains. Much is made up of the Holy Ganga and very little is spoken about how we desecrate the river. I still remember my first visit to Patna after I came back from America in the 80s. There was a conference in Patna on the banks of the Ganges, and the announcer kept saying all the guests who come, भोजन के लिए आपके लिए तंबू वहाँ लगा हुआ है और शौच के लिए गंगा मैया की ओर जाइए. So I said, this is quite remarkable. He equated Shauch and Ganga Maya together. And so, this is the bed of poverty, of degradation in the world, not just India, but in the world. And this is something which we have not dealt with. We call this GIPS, Great Indian Plains. People in the north don't really talk about it, but I must tell you that in the south, between two madrasis, we will talk about it. Look at the northern plains. So if you look at Rajasthan is an outlier in the I should use the Bimaru states. Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Uttar Pradesh. Raj Krishna was it, I think.
No, that's Ashish Bose.
Ashish Bose called them the Bimaru states. And because it's a perpetual sick people of India. Rajasthan is now becoming an outlier in this. Rajasthan in the last few years had a spectacular change in growth. But if you look, everything below that is on a different trajectory. My home state of Telangana, which in 1984, the 9 districts of Telangana were poorer than Bihar. Were poorer in all indices than Bihar. Today it's the #1 state in the country. Done by only one thing. We had a very corrupt man as chief minister. A very corrupt man. He irrigated the state. हर गांव में पानी दे दिया. सिंचाई in a barren, bony countryside was transformed into area of greenery. So Telangana supplies rice, wealth when farmers have water, and he transformed Telangana by just one act. And the south has just generally got transformed. And out of this wealth in the south, and the pace of that wealth accretion in the south, questions are being asked in the south. As to, I'll come to that data now. This is GDP per capita growth. Again, if you look at that belt, that line I drew for you, that imaginary line, you look at the numbers. From 103 to 117. The rest are on a different 140, 150, 160% growth, decadal growth rate. You can't have a country for long with such spectacular differences in growth rates. There's such differences in incomes. The difference between Bihar and the median per capita income the rest of the country is 1:4. Now, there's no country, Bihar actually is poorer than Nepal. Bihar is at the same level of sub-Saharan Africa. So this is per capita incomes of our different states. You can see the huge orange mass on top where the map maker actually chose saffron. How are you going to deal with this problem? I keep telling people again and again that our most significant national threat is not Pakistan, but a country as big as Pakistan in the heart of India, which is Uttar Pradesh. Uttar Pradesh has 224 million people, same size as Pakistan, is a bigger threat to India than Pakistan. Uttar Pradesh becomes a doubly more significant threat because it's one state, one political unit, which has a dominant imprint on Indian policies and politics. Uttar Pradesh effectively is the Mughal Sultanate running India. So unless Mayawati is right, unless you break up the state into 4 or 5, you won't get even polity in this country. As long as, when I first came to Delhi 40 years ago, people used to only talk about caste politics in UP. And I used to keep asking, but why only caste? Aren't there other ways of discussing policies and politics? Isn't it a caste? Uttar Pradesh में caste चलता है. So the dominant influence of Uttar Pradesh can be seen here. And this is the same chart again in dollars. You know, you see all economic newspapers and magazines, they all increasingly tend to use dollars. We've all become dollarized in our minds, you know, that how do we rate trends. In terms of dollars, look at the huge difference again. And $2,677 per capita is not bad. And if you multiply it in PPP terms, it's not so bad. 3 times this what? But it's unequalness which bothers us. The size of India has changed so much. The first 5-year plan was 360 crores. The last 5-year plan we had was something like 10 lakh crores. And that's the difference in this country's size. Look at the tax collection. Now Maharashtra shows a huge contribution, but that is because Tata Steel might have its factories in Jamshedpur and its factory in Pune or wherever else making cars, but registered office in Bombay. You might have a company in Jaipur, the registered office. So the tax collection is registered to Maharashtra. So you just take out Maharashtra from there. Even otherwise, you get a different kind of a spread of taxation, tax revenues from the other states. These are all visual images which you need to take. Don't bother about numbers. Now these are tax revenues statewide. Now, a small state like Telangana has a tax revenue of 92,000 crores. And Uttar Pradesh, which is 6 times bigger, has a tax revenue of 186 lakh crores. Now you can ask, if you're poor, you don't pay taxes. You can't collect taxes. If you're poor, you don't consume. If you don't consume, you don't pay GST. If you don't earn, you don't pay income tax. If you don't earn, you don't buy. If you don't buy, you don't pay taxes. There's a whole series of cascading events which take place with that. And you remain low and you keep remaining low. And if with that low-lying performance you dictate the policies and politics of the country, then there's a danger to all of us. How much GST is collected per person in 2022 per head? Look at the differences. Now my daughter, who's a Supreme Court lawyer, senior advocate in the Supreme Court, he also, like most senior advocates in the Supreme Court, is a high earner. And she is now suddenly begins talking to me saying, why am I paying so much income tax? What do I get from the state? So I keep saying the state gives you order, the state gives you stability to function, and as you're giving it back to the state. She says, no, it's not commensurate what the state gives me. My street is not clean. So we get these arguments, similar kind of logic, among South Indians. When I meet my Madrasi cousins, they keep telling me, saying, how long can this go on? Now this is a danger people in other parts of the country must be aware of. कि बातचीत शुरू हो गई, like लव बात निकली तो बहुत दूर तक चले जाएगी. So this बातचीत has begun. The kind of discourse which takes place in the south is very little different from what takes place in Delhi. Now, these are questions we have to answer. Why are we paying so much GST? Now, there are some graphs which say, how much does each state get back from what you give? So every 100 rupees Uttar Pradesh gives, it gets 332 rupees. Every 100 rupees Bihar gives, it gets 922 rupees back. Every 100 rupees Andhra gives, it gets 46 rupees back. Every 100 rupees Tamil Nadu gives, it gets 29 rupees back. तो इसके सवाल तो पूछेंगे लोग. Yes, like my daughter asked me, I said, you never spoke to me like this when you were in Sardar Patel school. And but now that you are Oxford and Harvard returned and big law in the Supreme Court, you keep asking me, think, हमें क्या मिलता है? So when your situation changes, you ask a different set of questions. Sethi Sahib and I have had long discussions on how situation changes and our values change. But look at these figures. You think it will go unnoticed? How long do you think it will go unnoticed? It is in this context, people are asking, why have we only got 19 battalions in the Madras regiment? Why does the Punjab Sikh Alliance and Sikh regiments have 64 regiments, battalions? So are we, and I asked rhetorically in the Army War College once in a question and discussion as to, do you think the British conquered India with East India Company troops raised in Telangana, Malabar and Tamil Nadu. In Uttar Pradesh, mothers used to frighten their children, saying, if you don't eat, the Telanganas will come. If you read there was just a book I was reading the other day on the correspondence between the emperor and the British and the nobility and the British about during the mutiny. And most of the complaints were about how Telanganas behaved in Delhi. वो mutiny चल रहा था एक तरफ, Bahadur Shah Zafar was sitting there, but these guys were looting the place. So, to say that suddenly, that I am told that I am not marshal. But the people who got defeated for the marshal race is something which doesn't go down well. But, so I'm testing out a new hypothesis that there are things happening. So we have to ask this question, whither India? Or we will wither away. This is state-wise own tax revenues. Again, you get a similar picture. Some states give more, some states give less. Now, Bihar gives 36,175 crores in revenues. Today I was reading as I was coming today to Delhi, to Jaipur, BBC broadcast which said that the future of India's democracy is going to be decided, looks like it's going to be decided in Bihar because Narendra Modi's fate is now linked to it. So I was thinking to myself that if I was with another Madrasi friend would say, पहले से पैसा कम देता है, उसके बाद फिर हमारा fate भी decide कर रहा है. But Bihar elections, if you look at the constituency of Mokama, where there were certain events yesterday, the Janata Dal candidate for MLA is locked up and kept in jail for murder of a man called Dularchand Yadav. Incidentally, I knew Dularchand Yadav in the sense that I met him in my old politics days. And Dularchand Yadav was a thug. He was what we called a Lattan. Every time you went to these places, you needed a Lattan beside you. Like my first trip to Bihar, I was given an old ambassador car by Chandrasekhar ji, and he said, "Isko bhi le jao." So one fellow sitting there, all the big moustache, hatta-katta fellow. So I asked him, I said, "आप क्या करते हैं?" He said, "Sir, मैं आपका लट्टन हूँ. कोई आपके रास्ते में आता तो उसको मैं सीधा कर देता." So you needed a person like that in Bihar, and Dularchand Yadav were people like that. So Dularchand Yadav became a Jan Swaraj candidate. Jan Swaraj is Prashant Kishore's reformist party. And Dularchand Yadav was killed because he was supporting a man called Surajbhan Singh, who was the RJD candidate, who was also another thug. So the two thugs fight, the third thug gets killed, one thug is in jail. That is the metaphor for democracy in Bihar. Yesterday, Amit Shah was in Vaishali. Tejasvi Yadav was in Vaishali. What did they speak about? Did they speak about the floods? Did they speak about how to increase agricultural yield? Did they speak about what kind of factories they're going to have? No, they only abused each other. They only called each other names. If you look at that, and Lichavi, it's around Vaishali, you had the Lichavi Confederacy and Democracy, where people used to meet in the Mahajana Sabhas and discuss what they're going to do and how they're going to live. Do you think the people of Lichavi would have recognized what these two people were discussing yesterday? And these are, one is the Home Minister of India and one is possibly the next Chief Minister of Bihar. So where is democracy? This democracy has now gone for a sixth in most of the country. Last year we had